Go ahead and start recording. This is our Alien Moot Court, and we'd like to welcome our good friends from Tennessee. And if you would, could you introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit about your school?
Well, my name is Timothy. All right. This here's Ty, my buddy. Blake, my other buddy, and this is Brianna, who finally managed to show up.
Very good.
So we originally had, excuse me?
Go ahead. Continue. Tell us a little bit about your school.
Okay. Well, Sweetwater High School is a comparatively small school. How many people would you say are in our class? About 600 in our school. And this is our Spanish classroom that the teacher's allowing us to use. I don't know much. Our school mascot is the Wildcat.
Okay. And thank you very much. And then for our introductions, we'll have our students stand up here.
Hello, my name is Danielle Thompson. I'm a Del Valle senior right now. Partner.
Hi, my name is Jacob Shaw. I'm also a senior at Del Valle High School. And just a little bit about Del Valle, it's school speaker.
Okay. We went off just a second, so finish a little bit about Del Valle.
Oh, so as I was saying, our school at Del Valle is comparatively large. We have just about over 3,000 students here, and we're very happy to be doing this Moot Court conference today over aliens. We're very excited. And I'll be the second speaker. My partner, Danielle, will be the first speaker for us today.
Okay, and Mr. Kroth, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself? Dr. Kroth, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, please? Not here. We're going to go ahead and begin. Tennessee, can you hear us okay?
No. I'll hear you well.
Okay, let's try one more thing here a second. Okay, we're going to try now. Then let's hope it works. Okay.
Can you hear us?
License are ready to go.
Are you guys ready to go?
Ready to go. We're going to go.
I don't know if you're talking to me, but my screen says that Michael Cunningham's network bandwidth is low, and all I hear is broken up speech.
Wow. We may try just one more second here. Stop just a second.
Right. Oh, should we begin?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'll begin. Our opening argument addresses a significant question of evidence. This aspect of the debate is central to UFO theory and is therefore essential to any argument against it. The evidence presented by the theorists consists mostly of images and videos of varying quality, as well as supposedly authentic records and first-hand accounts. Despite the vast majority of these being proven fakes, debates and research still continue. Our first challenge to this evidence is the most fundamental, that these images, videos, accounts, records, primary and secondary sources are all hoaxes, simply misrepresented natural and man-made phenomena, or unexplained phenomena with no bearing on the presence of extraterrestrials. These statements can be defended at all points. The first point, stating that much of the presented evidence is inauthentic, cannot be refuted. It is simply a stated fact, supported by numerous examples, including the famous Roswell incident, which has been convincingly explained. The second point claims that these reports are of mistaken origin. A modern drone, for example, witnessed by one unfamiliar with its design, would certainly see a flying object, and it would certainly be unidentified. Likewise, certain records can be explained by such rare and bizarre atmospheric effects, such as ball lightning. Unintentional technological malfunctions, or even direct editing, could explain certain suspicious effects supposedly caused by UFOs. We understand that this raises the complaint that any evidence, even if possibly authentic, is presented, it will be summarily rejected on the grounds that it is associated with such a taboo subject. To challenge this, we will rely first on examples. If one was to look back to any major scientific discovery, one would find that countless papers were written, debates and discussions were held, and evidence for and against it were presented and compared. No major change in scientific thinking has happened in a day. If, through constant presentation and spirited defense of their evidence, the UFO theorists have still failed to convince the scientific community in any significant way, then something must be missing from the argument, for on no account can one say the world's scientific community is foolish. Reasons for this rejection of UFO theory, despite its seemingly well-thought-out stance, can be found in similar rejections of such theories as those of flat Earth and hollow Earth. Flat Earth theory claims that the world is in fact flat. Many ingenious defenses for the theory have been made, but all are assuming things that, if true, neatly fit all scientific phenomena. Likewise, for hollow Earth theorists, who have developed their own explanation of physical reality, despite their convincing suitability to the circumstances, both can be rejected by the complex and vital scientific principle of Occam's razor, stated as entities must not be multiplied beyond necessity. This principle makes the point that, though many solutions may be presented that suitably fit the circumstances, the scientific method must merge with one, specifically that solution with the most foundation in accepted science. In other words, support for an idea comes first, and conclusions should then be drawn from it, not the other way around. Otherwise, one could easily present and defend literally any idea, no matter how absurd, with sufficient stubborn argument. Flat Earth theorists, in denying gravitational laws as we know them, and astronomical facts as we perceive them, does still fit the circumstances. Its problem, however, is that it comes to a conclusion and then attempts to support it, an error in any logical process. In any serious review of evidence, particular to this case, one must thoroughly and tediously look into every aspect of that which is presented. For example, when studying a book supporting a claim about UFO theory, one must sources and detect the status of their information and call it into question. By means of this kind of analysis, one will be able to find the weakness or strengths of any form of evidence. It is our view that, due to the investigative nature of scientific inquiry, the fact that this theory has been rejected on the grounds of insufficient evidence infers that the patient and mind-bogglingly arduous application of the procedure listed above will almost certainly result in the refutation of mainstream UFO theory. Certain people who ascribe to the branches of pseudoscience may respond to this logic-based attack on their evidence by demonstrating the admittedly apparent weaknesses of such an approach. The following will contain our defense of the logical method. We can all agree that the exclusive use of logic can be dangerous. It can be flawed and will always be subject to question. In this case, however, we believe we are justified in this due to the impossibility of providing physical evidence for the non-existence of a non-entity. By this, we mean that even our own case is impossible to support solely on evidence, because a picture of an empty sky has little value for anyone. This forces one to rely upon a priori evidence, or things that are not empirically known but can be concluded through inference. Our point can be demonstrated in the following scenario. Imagine two young children sharing a bed in a darkened room. The younger child happens to notice the silhouette of her jacket on the wall, which, to her fancy, resembles in every aspect the terrifying outline of a monster. This child, searching in her mind for an explanation for the presence of such a thing, notices the closet door creaked open. She then comes to the conclusion that there is a monster. It must have come from somewhere, and it is close to a closet, a logical hiding place. Satisfied by what she perceives as true, she wakes her older sister. Her sibling's perception, being more refined and experienced, is quite different. She knows, of course, that monsters don't exist. Consider the difficulty of her position. She must convince her sister that what clearly appears to be a monster is in fact simply a jacket. She is without evidence. The odds of a jacket forming the precise outline of a monster seems minuscule, and the circumstances favor the other side. There is a chronology that can be set up by the evidence. Therefore, the older sister must convince her sibling to not only deny the direct evidence presented by the senses, but also to do so without any evidence of her own. It is possible that this reasoning may cause herself to be convinced of the threat as well. In the end, she must simply turn on the light, which is unfortunately impossible in our real situation. We will devote this third part of our argument to the matter of authority, which we have opted to place in its own category for good reason. The official connotation or testimonial to any claim can have a profound effect both sentimentally and logically. However, one must realize that on no account should an individual's single testimony or opinion be allowed to sway proceedings. In response to the impressive and often intimidating nature of the presence of recognized authorities in a debate, a good example is the episode of Larry King Live featuring Bill Nye in a debate on this very issue. We will call into question not only the authority of these figures, but other aspects generally found among them. Those that defend UFO theory mostly rely on a record of some sort, audio, video, a photograph, or at least a personal account. Most are also supported by reports of strange events or official documents, or corroborated witness accounts. The first, most often, and most easily challenged aspect of these cases is undoubtedly their evidence and sources. As stated in our opening section, every form of electronic recording held as evidence is of poor quality, and even when it isn't, is able to be duplicated by modern, though not in all cases even modern, technology or misguiding technique. Other sources, based on hearsay, witnesses, and secondary sources, may be convincing, but one cannot fully convince reasonable people with circumstantial and possibly erroneous evidence. Furthermore, the possible bias, incorrect or deceitful information, and logical fallacies present in everyone's character are the reason that the concepts of logical, scientific, and judicial processes have been put in place. Our closing argument will involve the direct challenge to the basic concepts of UFO theory, the existence of so-called flying saucers, possible extraterrestrial motives and logic, and the government implication. We will begin with the issue of UFOs and their existence. Obviously, anything that is unrecognized and flies is a UFO. One cannot deny that there are unidentified flying things occasionally, or even quite often. Even the term flying saucer fails to define these things. A frisbee is a flying saucer. A saucer thrown out of a window is a flying saucer. There are drones and machines that look and behave like the famed flying saucers. These statements are not without their purpose. We will, for the duration of this closing argument, classify these things as extraterrestrial craft, or just for fun, ECs. The first section on evidence stated our position clearly and accurately, and can be referred to when considering the existence of these ECs. Or that they are all fake, leaving the theory with almost no evidence. Finally, we will address to a small degree the sensitive issue of government affiliation with ECs. Ignoring the least logical conspiracy theories, one is confronted with not only a reasonable level of evidence, but also seemingly reliable witness accounts and official records. The natural suspicion that the United States government has earned in the last few decades does not ease its defense. Generally, we have the stance that the United States government would have no reason to hide something because in the real world, people would probably celebrate at the revelation of first contact rather than riot. Otherwise, if just some form of negotiation was underway in fear of them, why wouldn't they just do what they wanted with or without human support? This subject will be addressed separately in a more analytical essay. The arguments presented above are to us sufficient evidence to make the claim that the popularized field of UFO theory is groundless. The evidence for its many precepts are insufficient and weak, and unreasonable conclusions mixed with rampant speculation have led to serious contradictions at a fundamental level.
No questions.
Right. Should we begin with our second essay, or shall we wait if the others get there?
They'll do
Okay.
theirs, and then we'll.
All right.
You shall begin your second essay.
Don't hear anything. I don't hear anything over here.
Tennessee, go ahead. Do your second speech.
Can you hear me? No word.